Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Would you like to share your story? Today, my husband will share his story. I hope you like it.
So, hi everyone, I'm James Turner. I'm going to share my story with you, and my story begins in Henderson, Texas. So, when I was born in Henderson, Texas, and when I was about a year and a half old, then my parents moved to Ohio, and I lived in the capital city of Ohio. Went to elementary school at a school very close to our home. It was only about 2 blocks away from our house, and so it was very close. After that, I went to Everett junior high, and that was about 6 blocks away, so still pretty close. You could walk to school in those days in the big city. So after I started going to Everett, my parents decided about 8th grade, I think, to move to the country. Now that was a big change for a city boy to move out into the country, and I mean, we moved out into the country. It was the country. Farms, houses like a quarter mile apart or so.
You mean very remote or something?
Very remote. And the houses far apart, big fields, cows, all of that was out in the country. And I lived there with my parents for about a year or so, about a year before they went their separate ways. And at that time, then the guy who owned the house that we lived in, the farmer, he took me in, my adopted brother, and one of my other brothers, and my sister went to live with my oldest sister. So my youngest sister went to live with my oldest sister. I stayed there on the farm to finish high school. It was really nice. We went out in the summertime and we baled hay and we baled straw, and I thought it was good. Everybody says, "Oh, that's a horrible job," but I never thought about it. It seemed nice to me. And me and my half brother, we would have competitions and see who can bale the hay the fastest, who can stack the fastest, and stuff like that. So it's probably no wonder we got fairly strong, and we started joined the wrestling team. Farm boys, pretty healthy. So when I graduated from high school, I decided to go to Texas and back to my hometown, and that's where my father and my oldest brother and my other brother was in the Army, I believe at Fort Hood in Texas. So that's how I got to Texas. I worked at a sub place. They sold subs, spaghetti, Italian. It's really funny because the place blew up. So when it blew up, it's so weird. The same night it blew up, and I mean blew up, boom, like that, blew up, scattered everywhere. That same night, they bulldozed and hauled the place off. And I'm not surprised that I heard stories it was an insurance deal, because, I mean, who does that? Who hauls away all the evidence of the accident in the middle of the night? Literally in the middle of the night. So after that, I went to work at a Mexican restaurant for just maybe a week before I started doing construction. And I did construction there for about 5 years, mostly remodeling and fence, and nothing eventful there in Texas. I lived alone. I never really did much. I went to the beach sometimes, but mostly just worked and did nothing. And don't even know what I was doing. 5 years wiped off the face of the earth. I don't even know what it was. So 5 wasted years. So I decided to move back to Ohio. So I moved back to Ohio and started working for an insulation company. They did foam insulation mostly, but we did other types of insulation. But very quickly I became the lead of that crew because, you know, dependable. 12 years I never missed a day. Dependable, always showed up, always worked hard. And so I became the foreman of the crew. We traveled around the city, but we also traveled to Cleveland, Dayton, Cincinnati, Indiana sometimes, northern Kentucky, and this, we're talking about 2 or 3 hour rides each direction. So you drive for like 3 hours and you work for 8 hours and then you drive back 3 hours. Now the only good thing is we got paid all for the whole thing. So drive time, everything. The bad thing is so many of the people who worked for us didn't have driver's license, or they're driving a truck just scared me to death, so that I just drive myself because I don't want to die. So there was a lot of that going on, and the turnover was pretty high over the 12 years. There was quite a few people. I remember one day a guy comes into the shop and he just does this. He just looks around the shop and he's like, I can't do this, man. And he leaves. And another guy came in and worked one day, a whole one day, never even come back for his check, never saw him again. I don't know what these people think. I don't know what you look around the shop and how you know what you're going to do. I just think he thought, oh, this looks like it might be work, and I don't want to do it. So he did. So I did that for 12 years, and towards the end of that, it was like 1998, I got a computer, and I read, it's about 97, back up a little, about 97 or so, I started reading about, you know, the great internet and all of that stuff. And I'd heard about it, but I started becoming interested in what is this great internet and tech and all of this. And I would get the paper every day, and I would read the paper on the way to these jobs every day, and I would read basically the whole tech section, and it became interesting to me, you know, all of this, what's going on, tech, internet, you know, computers, all of that. And so I got really interested in it, and I thought, you know, I'm going to get myself a computer. And in 1998, I got myself a computer. And I decided I was going to teach myself how to use a computer. And I'll tell you a real quick funny part of that is when I got the computer and I hooked it all up, they got the instructions, so it's easy. You just follow the instructions and you hook up a computer. No problem. But after I did all of that and I used it a little bit, then I was like, how do you turn this thing off? And so I called my sister up and I asked her, I was like, Phyllis, you know, how do you turn this computer off? And so she told me you click to start and all of that. It was Windows 98, so it was pretty, that's still not too, Windows 98 is not too different really from the latest Windows operating systems or the latest Apple operating systems. They're not that different. They were both graphical user interfaces, had start buttons, all that stuff. So anyways, it wasn't even a year later when my sister was calling me up and asking me, hey James, how do you do this? So I really did good. I taught myself how to use a computer, and that later in that same year, my sister and I, we started a company called Web Central Limited. So we started a company. I started trying to do some affiliate marketing and website design. Didn't get too far too fast because I'm working a job and all of that, but I continued throughout 1998 and 1998 into 1999, and towards the end of 1999 I'm like, this life doing insulation, this isn't a future. I have no future with this stuff, so I want to do something different, and I'm teaching myself how to do this. So I decided I'm going to go to work for the main company that I was a franchise of, or I worked for a franchise. So I went to the main company in Cleveland, Ohio, started working there. I thought that'd be better, right? Main office, it wasn't. Somehow they had more of everything and less of everything at the same time. They were bigger and yet worse in just every way imaginable. It was horrible. And so after a couple months working there, I'm like, I can't even do this. I can't work for them. So what do I do? And so basically I just said, I'm just going to be poor for a while, and I'm going to try to make this thing go. And I just sat home 24/7, working all the time to try to make it go. From there, I ended up moving to Akron for a short time, and then back to Cleveland into a small, crappy, one-bedroom apartment from hell. It was horrible, but it was an apartment, and it was a refuge where I could sit there in front of my screen 24 hours a day. And I worked very hard and started doing affiliate marketing, selling ebooks, selling affiliate products, still trying to work on a web design. And I guess you could call it a breakthrough moment when I really felt like I was really accomplishing something is when I installed a program called Storefront. So it allows you to sell stuff online through your website. And when they order something, a little cash register in your taskbar would go cha-ching. And oh, what a glorious sound. So when I heard that sound, right?
Like somebody gave money.
Yeah, I know, that's money. And I'm like, oh boy. And that sound started becoming more frequent. And as that sound became more frequent, and that was just one part of what I was doing, but sometimes that sound would start coming in 2 or 3 times a day. And that's like usually $50 a pop back in 2000. And so I was like, whoa, this is really good. And then I would log into my affiliate programs and see, wow, I'm making, 500 here and 1,000 here and 500 here, and my ebooks are selling $1,000 a month, and it started adding up. And by the time I decided to go to Florida, it was going pretty good. Not rich, but I was doing very well at that time, and I decided I wanted to move to Florida. I don't want to live in the cold. I don't want to live in one little crappy one-bedroom apartment. So I moved to Florida and moved into a nice one-bedroom apartment. But it's just me, and it was a pretty decent apartment. Much better than where I was living in Florida. In Ohio, you can't even compare it. And so as time went on, I saw the writing on the wall that this business wasn't good anymore. That the affiliate marketing and the ebooks was all falling off. My income started to go down. I was still doing okay for a while, but I just started seeing the writing on the wall. And so I'm like, I need to figure something out, right? What am I going to do? I can't just sit here and wait for the bottom to fall out. And so a friend of mine who I met online, we'd only ever talked online, is the only time I ever saw him, and one time we met at Disney World's Epcot Center just to meet each other. A couple of years later we would meet one more time, but that's the first time I met him and the only time I really spent much time talking to him. But we spent hours on the phone discussing what we're going to do next, what's the plan, what's the product. It's diets. We're going to both get together, we're going to hit this diet stuff. I'm going to link to you, you're going to link to me, and that's back when you could get away with that. And a lot of people didn't know at the time how much you could get away with interlinking. And we had many, many websites and a very complex strategy to interlink, and it worked pretty good. And so he started selling shavers online, and he was doing really good with that. So he had already begun to transition away from the affiliate marketing and sell his own products, and he was doing very well with it. So I was like, okay, this is the idea for me. And so I decided I wanted to go to China and try to find my own product. So I went to China, I looked around, I came across art, and I thought it was really cool. But I didn't really like commit. This is 100% what I'm going to do. But I thought that that's a good idea, right? To do the art thing. So I got it in my head. After that, I ended up going back again to try to do some rep work for my, like, get in between my sister and this pretty young lady, and try to make a deal as a manufacturer's rep. So I would be the go-between. I would get a piece of the cut, and so that's how I met my lovely wife Iris, and that was a quite interesting meeting. You want to tell that?
Yeah, the video. Not
Okay,
today.
I'll tell you the
We
short and
lost her.
sweet of it. So I go to this hotel to meet her, and we never seen each other before. So
don't have picture.
yeah, we didn't have any pictures, never seen each other, never had any description, had no idea, just know she's Chinese, that's it.
I'm trying to sell products.
Yeah, she's trying to sell
Christmas.
silk flowers, Christmas trees, things like that. So I go in there and I'm looking around, and I never noticed the flower thing, I guess. I don't know what I noticed. I don't know. So I'm looking around. And I'm not seeing who, I don't know what I was expecting. But I looking around, and I finally, I walk up to her and notice she's got the flowers. I walk up to her. I'm incredibly shy, especially then. I was so shy. I was voted the shyest kid in my high school, and they literally followed me around for weeks to catch me coming out of class so they could get a picture. That's how shy I was. But so I finally got up nerve. I walked up and asked her, Iris?
And very quiet voice.
Yeah, very
Anyway,
quiet voice.
Because you are shy, and at that time, you make me feel like, oh, maybe this one can trust more.
So we went out to talk somewhere, and she said she couldn't understand me very good, but I understood her really good. I probably understood 95% of what she was saying. I can't understand everything, but
I try very hard to practice English from him.
yeah,
Talking.
so mostly she talked at first, and then finally I got up the nerve to speak to her, and so I ended up going back home to the U.S., and I decided I wanted to go back again, see Iris. And so I went back about 2 months later, something like that, and saw her again, and I decided I wanted to move to China and be with her. And so that's what I did. I moved.
That's not after 1 year.
It took me a little over a year to get everything together to where I could do it. But I did it, and I went over there, and I stayed, and we ended up getting married, and I stayed there for 7 years. We had 3 children there, the twins, who are the oldest, and then we had one more child there. And I liked living in China. There was a lot of good stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that's hard to get used to because, I mean, I'm from the United States, and it's culturally, and we were in Beijing, and oh my goodness, Beijing is big. There's so many people, and it's so hard to get anywhere to do anything. It's really different.
Every time we go out with our girls, always surround many people.
Now that was one good thing, is that everybody was always treating us and very nice. And whenever I take the girls out, the girls were so popular you can't even imagine. One of them was like a rock star, and I'd be a couple miles from the house, and I would hear out of nowhere, Jamie! They're calling out one of my daughter's names, and I'm like, what is this, right? I remember we went to Tiananmen Square one time, and you would have literally thought Michael Jackson showed up, because there were hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't know if it got into the thousands, but there were a lot of people in a circle around us, and they all wanted their pictures with the girls, and they all wanted to give them ice cream and all different stuff. It was amazing. So there were some benefits. I did like some of the things. We take them out to eat, like this one restaurant we took them to regular, and oh my goodness, the waitresses would treat those kids like gold. They take them to the bathroom, they take them to play. They're just so nice to them, incredibly nice. So there was a lot of good, but I wanted to get them back to the U.S. to start school and get my wife back to the U.S. so we could start the next chapter in our life. And that's kind of where we are now. We've been going through the motions, and we had one more child after we got back. She was born here in Florida, so we now have 4 girls. And the oldest twin, the twins are in high school now. So we've really gone a long way since we've been back in 2013. So we've been back for just about 10 years. So we've been here just about 10 years. So it's been fun, it's been interesting, and I'm looking forward to what's next. And that's kind of what we're doing right here with Share Your Story. And I've started some YouTube channels of my own. They're really infant level. They're just not too great right now, but I'm working on them, and I got high hopes that they're going to take off. And I continue to do my website design, continue to spend time with my lovely wife and our family, and I'm just enjoying living here in Florida. It's wonderful. The summers are hot, yes, I've heard all the memes, I've heard all the stories, it's true. But today, it's just magnificent. And I just like living here. It's very nice. My kids go to a really nice school, and it's one of the top 100 high schools in the country. And it's just a fantastic school. I'm very proud. They're doing really good. And like I said, we're just moving toward the next chapter. Can't wait to see what's next, and we're going to share it with you as it goes along. And it's really good to talk to you all. If you would like to hear part of my story in more detail, depending on what part it is, I might be willing to go into a little more detail, but really the only part of my story that is meaningful to me is the part where I met my wife. Everything before that, I would just as soon forget, right? It was either unproductive or just not a good time. And so I really don't want to go into any of that. But if you want to hear any of the story from the time like 2000-ish on, like my business and stuff like that, then let me know. And thanks for watching. We're glad to have you.
You're not gonna like this, Baba. You're not gonna like this. This is so fun. Spin 4, Baba. 4. This is so.
What's this?
This
unspins it. That unspins. Now you won't feel sick to your stomach.
You're the one who chose to do this. You did this before with bad news.
Garbage in his pants.
No, this is for children. Your size is a child, so it's okay. I'm way too big.
Mama, could you spin it that fast? As fast as you can.
I will give you another bag.
Oh, you.
It has your head on the thing. Oh my god.
Look how
fish,
Potatoes on the side of the
flour, flour,